Welcome to the Champions of Active Women podcast. In each episode, we share stories and experiences of active female role models and individuals who support the active pursuits of girls and women. Our goal is to encourage and inspire girls and women to be active for a lifetime, to reach their goals, and to break new barriers in sport and life. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative in the Sports Medicine Research Institute at the University of Kentucky. The mission of the Active Women's Health Initiative is to optimize health and promote physical activity and wellness for girls and women across the lifespan. If you enjoy this podcast, you can make a donation to the Active Women's Health Initiative at uky.networkforgood.com. Your contribution helps us empower all girls and women to find their inner athlete and become athletes for life. Ashley Grigsby is the ticket sales manager for the Lexington Legends. She's from San Antonio, Texas, and moved to Lexington in 2005 to attend the University of Kentucky, where she earned a bachelor's degree in political science. Ashley is committed to giving back to the Lexington community. She is currently serving as the immediate past president for the Nest Center for Women, Children, and Families Executive Board of Directors. She has served the Central Kentucky community as a member of multiple organizations, including Junior Achievement of the Bluegrass, Amachi Central Kentucky, CASA, the Rotary Club of Lexington, and the Bluegrass Trust for Historic Preservation. In 2018, Ashley was the inspiration behind the I Was Here project, a public art memorial to the former enslaved. In her free time, Ashley hosts conversations for women to talk about sports. Ashley is a proud member of the Big Blue Nation, and her favorite professional teams are the Dallas Cowboys, Houston Astros, and the San Antonio Spurs. All right, so welcome, Ashley. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So, sports to me, when I was looking through your background, seems like it is part of a lot of different aspects of your life. And I'm wondering if you could just get us started today by talking about how you developed your love for sports.
Sure. So I think it started with my dad. I am an only girl, so I have three brothers, and my dad, they didn't treat me like the girl of the family. Mm-hmm. They kind of treated me like one of the boys. And although I don't think of it now that way, that it was like a boy thing to be into sports, mm-hmm. It was just the thing, in the house. And so my dad worked nights, and during that time, you didn't have a DVR. So he couldn't record the games. He would call from work and he'd ask me about the game. So I ended up giving him like the play-by-play on, the Knicks or the Braves or whatever sport was happening at that time. If it was like a late game, he would call me and ask me what happened. I would say, oh, Latrell's free rail hit this, or,
yeah.
That's kind of how it started, was just trying to explain what was happening in the game, so that he would know what was going on.
It's kind of some foreshadowing for some of the things you're doing now, or maybe some of the things you're doing now are because of those early experiences. But what a cool way to build a relationship with your dad, and just like to have sports be part of your early life.
Yeah.
So can you talk about your own experiences playing sports?
Sure. So my brother, my brother Otis, my oldest brother, was really, really good at sports. And so he's the person who's, his name is on the wall in the gym and everything like that. He's accomplished a lot. He's in the NFL, et cetera, et cetera. So falling behind him in sports was not fun at all. I resisted it as much as I can. I often joke about being 6 feet tall and not being able to avoid the coaches. So it really didn't matter. Like if I didn't want to play sports, it didn't matter anyways, because, they'd say, oh, Grigsby, get over here. Have you ever played, this, that? You played volleyball? No, coach. All right, let's get you in. And so that's kind of how it started. And I won't say I had a love-hate relationship. I really enjoyed playing. I enjoyed playing sports all the time, but it was just that constant comparison and knowing that, your brother, who's 7 years older than you, was awesome and everyone loves him. Mm-hmm. It was a high bar to meet.
So, did he encourage you to play sports, your big brother, or were there other people in your life who were important in encouraging you?
Yeah, no, yeah. Otis, he encouraged me to do everything. So, he is an awesome person. So yes, he encouraged me to play sports. My dad did. We went out and played basketball. My first sport was t-ball and playing baseball in Little League. So we were active.
Hmm.
I was active as a kid playing, and I'm trying to think of like at what level, which coaches influenced me more. But I would just say more just collectively. I people have always been very encouraging for me to get out there and go, and to stay active and to stay competitive, and just to go get it. Oh, you're 6 feet tall, get big. Like, all right, let's go,
Yeah.
let's get big. And so I always embraced it. It was always a lot of fun for me.
And so you mentioned a couple of times, you're 6 feet tall, you have an athletic build, an athletic body, and people really encouraged you in that nature. And we met briefly, and I got the sense that you're confident in that body, and that you're comfortable. Your social media handles reference it. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you've always felt that comfortable and confident in your body, or if this is something you had to learn over time.
Yeah, it was definitely learned over time. I was not comfortable, but it was one of those things where I would find the smallest sandal, like the world's thinnest sandal to wear, so I wasn't a centimeter taller than I needed to
Hmm.
be, or just anything to just kind of shrink myself and make myself smaller. And in playing sports that where your height is celebrated, I think that was encouraging for me. It builds confidence to know that someone's like, instead of saying, "Oh, you're so tall," or trying to just whatever I might consider a dig might just be a comment.
Hmm.
Those types of comments don't really happen, on the court. That just, usually when someone's saying something about your height, it's usually in a positive way. And so, yes, I was always encouraged by that, knowing, okay, well, I'm tall, I could be useful here. Yeah.
So, I think one of the things that I find really interesting about your background is that you seem to have a really well-rounded background. You've worked in different spaces, you have a degree in political science, you've had these sport-related experiences, and now you find yourself in a sport career. So could you just talk about your path to that career?
Sure. So, yes, I started with political science at the University of Kentucky because I wanted to, or at least my plan was to go to law school. And so there was no pre-law uh, minor or major at that time. And so I was thinking, well, let's try political science. It's a lot of reading. There's a lot of writing. I was told it would be, on sort of a path that way. It wasn't for me, like that wasn't my path.
Mhm.
However, I enjoyed that. So just from there, I ended up at a law firm. I was doing marketing, and I just kind of built that up. It's more of the marketing that's taking me into all of these different industries, because you can use it across all kinds of platforms.
Mhm.
And so, when someone needs whatever that digital is that's created, or whatever we need, whatever assets, whatever campaigns that need to happen, that's kind of how it started. And with the Legends, I would say it was more. I haven't asked Andy for sure, our president and CEO of the Legends. I haven't asked him exactly why he asked me to join, but I'd have to think it was because I was kind of being really really proud and out about our Women Watching Sports Live brand
Mhm.
that my two friends and I co-founded. And just talking about it online, I do believe that he saw that and thought, hey, she's local in the community. She's really into sports. She's really into getting women into sports.
Mhm.
And so, let's get her on. So although I don't do as much marketing, that's not my job. here, in minor league baseball, we do everything.
Everybody does everything, right?
Everybody does everything, right?
Yeah.
And so I won't claim that, but I will say I think that is what has gotten me into the different spaces.
So you mentioned women watching sports, and I'd love for you to share with our audience what that is and how it got started.
Yeah. Okay. So Women Watching Sports Live was a brand idea that just came from conversations that I'm having with my girlfriends. So, it's Sunday and we're talking football on the phone. We're texting about it. Like we're interested in it. And it's just 3 Black women,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know if this is normal, but like, I don't see it. I don't see it represented anywhere. I turn on ESPN and there might be a woman on TV talking about, what's coming up, but not 3 women,
Mm-hmm.
who are all equally excited, or maybe we have different levels of interest in the sport, but we're willing to learn and teach, And so I think that's truly how it started. We were on Instagram and we just did videos of us watching the game live. And for whatever reason, people decided they wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And, with us. So,
well, I think you're right. You found this unique space where there are not people who look like you and your friends who are doing that kind of work, but there is interest from women to hear that kind of conversation, be part of those kind of conversations. So I think that's awesome. You found that gap, that you can fill.
Yeah.
Tell me about who your audience is.
Honestly, so we're doing a lot of our work on Clubhouse. So we've been kind of playing with the different platforms, and Clubhouse, when we started last football season, it allowed us the ability to have other people have conversations. So mm-hmm. It wasn't just us. We were able to engage more with anyone else who wanted to learn. Mm-hmm. So our audience there's a good mix. We often say that when we make a space for women, we make a space for everyone. So, and that is the truth. So mm-hmm. when men come in, or if someone who's, someone's from the UK and, they're like, football, I came here.
Thought you were talking about soccer, right?
Absolutely not. Right. And then we get them onto the game. This is the game we're watching, and then kind of walk them through what they're seeing, and to hear their reactions. That's hilarious. But we have the space for women, and they're awesome. And then we also have a space for men who are awesome, who are able to be respectful. So when we create that space, we have certain rules for respecting women and how to engage. We found a way to engage that did not turn women off, that made the space more inviting to everyone. So that's kind of what we're doing on Clubhouse right now.
Love it. So if somebody wants to connect, can they just find you by looking for Women Watching Sports Live?
Yes, I think we're WW Sports Live on Instagram, and I think across all of our platforms, that's our handle.
Great. So do you have any goals for where you all are going next with that platform?
Yeah. We actually met last night. Like we're wanting to keep growing in that space. I actually started a Twitch account and posted my first Twitch it was one of the preseason Cowboys games.
Okay.
Cowboys games. So I'm looking to see what that platform offers, but really we're just wanting to get more people engaged and to see if, okay, you like football, well, do you like motorsports? Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't know, like you like, you may like motorsports, let's try golf. And so we've been really expanding across all sports, especially when football season's,
when it's
slow.
not in. Mm-hmm.
When it's done, we have, we tried all kinds of things, and it's gotten us out the door and out, even golfing. So we're just really trying to encourage more women to get out and learn,
Mm-hmm. I love that idea. And it kind of reminds me, so some of the work we're doing with the Active Women's Health Initiative in girls is trying to provide exposure to lots of different types of activities so that everybody can find a space and something that they enjoy. It sounds like you're doing a similar thing here.
Yes, absolutely.
So, you're working in these spaces, both professionally and in your leisure time for these kind of women watching sports live, these personal time endeavors. You're in this world of sports, which is often very male dominated still, even though we've seen some growth and some women entering those spaces. So I'm just wondering if you could talk about what it's like to be in those spaces as a woman.
Um, it's difficult. I would say it would be more difficult if we didn't create our own space. So in many ways, I feel like we've removed ourselves from that model. So if you were into, like, I know Clubhouse is very specific, but it's where it's working and we've had a lot of traction. In that space, we have even Coach Jen Welter, first NFL coach, on our stage. She has her moderator badge, and we'll just have women who have those moderator badges who are up there, not only speaking as experts, but also just making sure that people know to be respectful. So I would say in that instance, it's not the same. We truly have created a space where we don't have to deal with the regular. However, there are times when we go into other places and they're not inclusive. You will be talked over and talked down to and things like that. And I think what we do to combat that is we try to stick to data. And so all of the meaningless conversations about who's GOAT, we will respectfully let you say that. And then we will, if we choose to debate that, well, what stats are you, we'll ask you which stats, are you basing that on? And so when you do that, it kind of takes the conversation to a higher level. People are educated, and a lot of people respect you for that because you're not just spewing out your opinion. So yeah,
the scientist in me loves that, right? You're using your data to support your claims, and that's awesome. And it kind of, it sounds like it really deflates the emotionality of it as well, right? So it's not my opinion or my emotions, it's about the facts and the data that supports your claim.
Absolutely.
So where do you think, what do you see in sports for women, or these spaces that you're creating? Where do you see some promising developments for women?
Wow. Everywhere really. We're talking from NASCAR drivers, to the actual athletes who are participating, to just the ancillary individuals who are helping out. I think that the more that we see women out engaging, active in these spaces, the more likely it is that someone says, I can do that. I can do that too. And so, and it's not as challenging as it is, portrayed to be. So I think in doing that, we kind of demystify this, or at least take, shoot down some biases that we may have, or others may have of us as women. And it'll open up those spaces. The more you're into the data, the more the more I feel like the more we do that, the more the spaces just continue to open up. And so yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Obviously, we have a long way to go, because it's definitely still very male dominated. But I feel like every single woman, every single opportunity that is taken, it just makes it better for the next woman.
So where do you see those next steps that you think we need to take as women in sports, whether it's as athletes or in the support roles, kind of behind the scenes in sport organizations?
I feel like we need to speak up. I feel like we need to speak up. We need to take on those more the more public roles, the more outward facing roles, and just take on every task. Truly, just because I'll speak for my own self. I'm the type of person, since I get behind a computer, I don't mind to be there. I don't necessarily need to be seen to do the work that I'm doing. We're on an audio-based app. You don't need to see us doing what we're doing, but I think that it's helpful. And I think that in the next the next steps are once we get in those roles, we need to encourage more women and hire, you know, I feel like we have I guess, be mentors and leaders in these spaces, and to, I guess, just even demystify like what it's like to be within the organization, you know, as a mom, you know, here's how you can make this work for you. Don't think that it's impossible to do it, you know, because someone said that it is.
Back to that really simple idea that if somebody can see you doing it and hear you talk about it, that they're likely to think they can do it too.
Yeah.
So we've talked about your early sport experiences. We've talked about your professional sports kind of career, in your career in sports. And could you talk about now how you stay active today?
Yeah. So a lot right now is walking around the Legends ballpark.
I bet you get thousands and thousands of steps. Have you ever tracked it?
I do. No, yeah, I have several apps in my watch, and yes, I hit my goals every day just walking around here. But I also, you know, I'll go to the gym. You know, I work out. I haven't been playing as much on my own, but in the past, before taking this job, you know, I was out, you know, playing volleyball, just even rec leagues, you know, running. We have, you know, running groups, just anything that will keep me like moving and going. That's usually where you can find me. And so just finding the fun in that, not doing too much that I'm gonna, like, you know, hurt myself or anything like that, but enough where it's a challenge, and enough where I can find people to be around, and, you know, who can encourage me as well.
Sounds like the social aspect of it is part of what you enjoy.
Yeah, for sure.
What else motivates you to be active?
I mean, how I feel, to be honest with you. You know, it takes a lot of energy to get through a 13-hour day, and I actually work 2 jobs, so it's not every day that I work the 2 jobs, but this morning I had to be at work at 4:30. You know, they're long days, and those days sometimes we have games, and I'll work till midnight. So I feel like you have to do a lot of self-care, and a part of that self-care is body movement. You know, a lot of it is definitely rest, but other part of it is that movement. And so, you know, I could say I'm sore from walking the stadium. It's not the same as when I go lift. You know, it's not the same sore. The lifting sore feels actually good afterwards. The walking, you know, sore on the concrete doesn't feel that the same way. So yeah.
So when you're intentional about your activity, you feel good in your body.
Right. And then just listening to myself.
Yeah. So another role that you play, you mentioned earlier, was it being a mother. And can you just talk about, you know, how you encourage your family to be active?
Yeah. So I love that question, because this week was my first week with my son, taking him to school. So last week his dad took him, and we've walked to school these 2 days.
That's awesome.
You know, so it's half a mile there, half a mile back. So I get my mile in, and when I'm at work, my mom watches my son in the morning, that 4:30 slot. And so she's walking with us too. And so
that's so good.
Yeah. So I've got my mom out, you know, my son out, and I told him, you know, hey, when you get out here and walk, it's going to get you prepared for school. Your brain's going to, you know, start firing on all cylinders. It's going to be way better than if we just drove, you know, these 2 turns to get into your school, you know. So, and he's encouraged by it as well. So I think that's just one way that we, you know, try to stay active and try to engage. And to me, it's encouraging, just because we'll have a conversation, more than the conversation that we had when I got home from work the night before. You know, I found out my son has a girlfriend. Who knew?
All right, there you go.
Grade, you know, on that walk. And so I feel like it's productive for sure.
That's some good info. I gotta, you know, offline we can talk about how you got that out of him, because I can't get my kids to talk to me. So but I think that speaks to the quality time that people can have around being active together.
Mm-hmm.
So as the Active Women's Health Initiative, one of our goals is to get girls and women to be active. What advice or words of wisdom do you have for girls and women about playing sports or just being active?
I would say just be confident, own your confidence. Like you've already got it. It's already in you. Like whatever you're doing, you're already doing it well. And you know what I'm saying? And just stay at it. If you don't feel like you're doing it right, you know, you can ask a question, but you can just keep going, you know, just keep moving like we do anything else, one foot in front of the other. And just take it head on and just have fun. You know, nothing is that serious. And so, you know, I feel like when we're having fun doing it, it's always going to make it better. You know, just have an extra little spring in your step. And I feel like it makes, if it's something that's challenging, even a smile will, if you're smiling in the middle of it, even if you're laughing at yourself, I feel like it'll help you get through that challenging part of whatever you're doing when you're being active.
I think that's awesome advice. And I wish that everyone could see you right now because you have been smiling the whole time. And every time we talk about movement or activity or sports or getting women engaged, that smile gets bigger. So I very much appreciate that advice and your positive attitude towards it. Is there anything else you'd like to share today?
You know, honestly, I'm here at the Legends, so of course I love to plug.
Yeah, go for it.
Our stadium. Yeah, I feel like I have friends who really like to get into baseball, but don't know it, like don't know the sport, and that's the same for lots of other sports. And so I just want to like put it out there that I'm here at the ballpark, and so it's like if you ever want, I will sit down next to you at this ballpark if you show up and just say like, hey, Ashley, I heard you. I will sit down next to you and talk you through the entire game. You know, I'm sure Andy won't mind, you know, if we did something like that. So I feel like people should be encouraged to get out, go outside, and catch a game. It's really, it's an enjoyable thing. And I feel like no one should be discouraged from coming because they don't think that they know or understand the game, you know? So whatever aspect of baseball you might like, it might be the baseball pants, you know, if you know, and that's okay, because that will open the door for you to, you know, learn other things about the sport, and you might even find some comparisons to something else that you like. So that's kind of what I would say, you know, come out and join me out here at the ballpark.
And have some fun. I love that offer.
Have some fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your offer to help, and thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Champions of Active Women podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative and the Sports Medicine Research Institute within the College of Health Sciences at the University of Kentucky. This episode was produced by the Faculty Media Depot. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with your social networks, or simply tell a friend about us. If you want to help us sustain the Champions of Active Women podcast, donate to the Active Women's Health Initiative at uky.networkforgood.com. For up-to-date information about our initiative, follow us on social media at UKAWHI. Thank you for joining us as we empower all girls and women to become athletes for life.